They did a great job compiling a lot of the stuff that happened in the protest. And we need to talk about what happened over in Melbourne today. There was this protest by a bunch of really prominent TERFs. They've been doing this protest series in different countries across the world. There was one in UK, I think a month or so back, and now there's this one in Melbourne. And what keeps on happening at these protests, literal neo-Nazi groups keep coming out in support of the TERFs. This keeps happening time and time again, and it absolutely happened at this protest. Posey Parker. Here we have Posey Parker talking about the accusations of being buddy up with a bunch of Nazis, and let's see what happened here.
Often I'm accused of being buddying up to certain far-right group. Where are you, boys? I thought we were friends.
Oh, there they are. We see they've got their Hitler salutes going.
Look at the Nazis. Look at the Nazis. Look at the Nazis. Hey, you're worried about us. Fuck you, Nazis. Fuck you.
And as we see here, we have police officers protecting the Nazis, shoving anti-fascists and just trans rights activists away from the literal Nazi. Like, police are literally standing defense for the Nazis here. Typical protest stuff. So Posey Parker, there you have it. There's the Nazis. You asked where they were. They are definitively on your side. They have said so themselves. Here we also have a tweet where somebody was calling her out. Oh, do you think the Nazis are here because of Antifa? Did you see what was on their banner? It said, destroy PDF file freaks. They're on your side. The Nazis are on your side. Instead of saying, no, I don't support the Nazis, or I don't want the Nazis on my side, she sides with the Nazis, says that this person is trying to protect PDF files. By PDF files, what they mean is trans people, because this was a protest about trans rights. Let's be clear about the dog whistling. They're talking about trans people. They're trying to call all trans people PDF files. Very much on the side of Nazis. That's kind of crazy to see. People who claim to be feminists siding with the Nazis. But let's talk about why that happens. These TERF groups, they know that they're largely unpopular. Most people have either a neutral or somewhat positive view of trans acceptance, social acceptance of trans people. So they know that in order to gain power, they need to side with anyone. This strategy is just horrible. If the TERFs were to win with the Nazis on their side, do you think the Nazis are just going to stop at trans people? When TERFs are trying to push forward for women being defined as baby factories, well, Nazis also love women being baby factories in the home for very trad, alt-right, far-right kind of beliefs. If you work with the Nazis are going to eat you up. They don't give a shit about women's rights. They hate trans people, and they will just use you until you are no longer useful in the fight against trans rights before they start coming for women's rights. This is what's happened every time that we have groups siding with Nazis. The Nazis aren't going to stop at you. We also have a really funny moment. During this protest, the TERFs originally tried to play defense and originally tried to say, no, the Nazis aren't on our side. It was Antifa. The Nazis are trying to find Antifa. We have two sides of this. The Nazis versus the Antifa side. There's the trans versus the TERF side. Those are just two separate things going on. So here we say, fascists are here too because Antifa invited them. Okay. And then later, now they're saying the freedom nutters are between us and the trans. Nazis and anti-fascists up the other end facing up, as they intended. Once again, trying to say that they're separate. And now we have a later claim where they're trying to claim that they are the ones that are trying to keep Nazis out of their events, saying that they have contacted prominent anti-fascists, asked them to keep out the Proud Boys and Nazis. So, okay, now TERFs are saying that, no, we don't want the Nazis, we're going to try to keep them out. It's important that we ask them to keep out the Nazis. And then later, when they realized that people weren't buying their bullshit, they just said, Nazis and women want to get rid of PDF file filth, referring to trans people. By the way, they're once again dog whistle about trans whistle. Why don't you side with the Nazis? The mask dropped so quickly. Within the matter of hours, we have the mask dropping and the TERFs openly siding with the Nazis. This Angie Jones person, another prominent TERF, who was one of the organizers of the event, along with Posey Parker. Crazy stuff. We even have the leader of the National Socialist Network, that's what Nazi literally stands for, National Socialist, who talked about the Melbourne protest on Telegram. Today in Melbourne, the National Socialist Network acted as a vanguard for protests against the constant PDF file agenda being forced upon our children and our people. Once again, they're just dog whistling about trans people. PDF files deserve destruction, and the only solution to sickness is white revolution. Destroy PDF freaks, says the leader of the Nazis. All right, and TERFs are siding with this group that call all trans people PDF files and think that the only solution is white revolution. Classic Sid. Yeah, as chat says, famously, there have not been any white PDF files. You've never seen traditional, conservative, perhaps Catholic, white PDF files. That's just something that never happens, right? We also have more evidence talking about her standing alongside the PDF files from Angie Jones, once again defending the Nazis. Here's the Nazis at the protest. Destroy PDF file freaks. Just talking about trans people. Angela Jones, Juanita. That's a picture of Posey Parker, the first woman that we showed. Once again, the other tweet siding with the Nazis. Also in classic protest fashion, we have the police standing on the side of the Nazis and pushing away trans people and people trying to defend people's freedom to live as they please, shoving some trans people over to let the Nazis run around and protest and do their hiles and whatnot. Just to remind people that this isn't just like a one-time occurrence. We can look at the event hosted by the same group of TERFs over in, I think it was London, just like a couple months back. Yeah, in January. We had this classic speech of TERFs siding with Nazis. Let's give this a listen.
Do you know the big lie? The big lie was first described by Adolf Hitler in Mein Kampf. The big lie is such a big lie.
All right. Now we have TERFs openly quoting Adolf Hitler positively. Let's hear what the big lie is.
Well, that can't be a lie, because I'd never tell any as big a lie as that. We only lie in small ways. The big lie, well, there is one big lie going on, and it was begun by men in the early part of the 20th century. It was began when they had an erotic fantasy, and they decided they were going to sell us the big lie. And what is the big lie? The big lie is trans women are...
All right, so that was TERFs positively quoting Adolf Hitler. We now have multiple prominent TERFs and TERF activists who are straight out coming out and saying Nazis had a point. Literal TERF rhetoric now. The Nazis had a point. Yikes. Big yikes. I hope that we don't need to do too much discussion on why Nazis and their ideology are bad and shouldn't be supported. But I think that another thing that's really interesting that was brought up, particularly in this speech, was the idea that this started out as just like some man's idea, and it's like men who are pushing the existence of trans people down our throats or whatever. Actually, the opposite is true. If you look at polling data on who supports social acceptance of trans people, who believes in the validity of trans people, it's mostly women. Women are more likely than men to support trans rights, to support the social acceptance of trans people, to believe that trans people's identities are valid. It's mostly men and people who lean to the political right that are opposed to trans rights. Well, it's mostly women and people who lean to the left that are in favor of trans rights. So this framing that like TERFs love to use, the idea that, trans people is men who are trying to tell women what women should be and whatnot, it's actually just not even borne out in the data. Most women are supportive of trans people. Men who are less supportive of trans people, the TERFs are actually the ones who are using men's definitions and men's beliefs. I mean, if you want to reduce yourself down to a baby factory, you can see why that's going to be more popular with men than women. Women don't want to just be baby factories. They want to be people that live autonomous lives, that aren't limited by their biology. That's exactly what TERFs are trying to do, limit women by their biology. And yes, for people that are not following Lila RPG on TikTok, on Twitter, they did a great job compiling a lot of the stuff that happened in the protest. And you might know their series, TERF Twitter Roundup. They do a lot of great work, so definitely check out Lila RPG as well. But yeah, crazy stuff. Nazis and TERFs. They're now becoming a lot more open about their alliance.